So one thing that has always bothered me on this Jeep is my rear tire swing out carrier. Beforehand, I wanted to do it quick and dirty, so essentially I bought a DIY bumper kit, I modified it to have a swing out on it, and it definitely worked, but the weight of a 37-inch spare back there just always was swinging back and forth. I did some work to stiffen it up, but I actually ripped the brackets off of it a couple times, and just with how much movement it had, I was never happy with it. So I saw an opportunity to sell it and whip up a new one, and so that's what we're going to knock out today. So to start off, I'm going to be doing a tube bumper. It's going to have a few more mounting points to the frame. So we kind of already started the main base of it here, which is going to mount to 2 frame tie-ins. These frame tie-ins go the length of the frame rails and bolt down below, so you get a bunch more mounting points. And I did have these tie-ins before, but the bumper wasn't mounted directly to them. Then the rest of this bumper is going to swing around the outside and then weld back to the frame on the outside as well. So that's going to give it 4 points of contact, making this a lot stiffer. Now for the main style of this, I will admit I'm kind of copying Filthy Addiction's off-road bumper. I have no experience with their bumpers, but they look to be super nice quality. I just don't want to pay for one, and I have a tubing bender, so I might as well whip up one pretty similar. There are going to be a couple differences in how I design mine, but that's primarily for me just to save a little bit of time and effort and work with materials that I already have. So we've already got kind of the base structure of this setup. We got a couple of clevis mounts from Barnes 4-wheel drive that are coming out of the frame. So now from here I can go ahead and build the rest of the bumper out. So let's grab the tubing bender, roll that thing out, and start getting the rest of these tubes fit up. So it is a new day, but we did get a good chunk of work done last time we were working on the Jeep. So we got the primary setup of the bumper done. Most everything that we need to do while it's on the car is completed. So we got frame tie-ins on the sides. Kind of the last couple things we need to do before we pull this thing off is we do need to set up the swing out. So we need to position the swing out hinge and latch just to make sure that there's no interference with the trunk door when it opens and closes. And then after that, I think it's time to go ahead and pull this thing off. There's a few more gussets and added pieces that we need to put on, but we can do all that with it off the car and then totally finish weld it in the garage. So let's get diving in and making this swing out and see how it turns out. And now comes the worst part of this build, which is setting up the spare tire mount on the tire carrier. And why this sucks is because you gotta lift this 37-inch spare up and down over and over again until we finally get the right fit. But sitting here complaining about it isn't gonna get it done, so let's get to cranking. Alright, so we just tacked this thing up. I just put 2 big tacks on it, so fingers crossed it holds. And I set up the plate about half the difference in degree angle between the glass and the actual trunk door. That's what I did on my last tire carrier. I really liked the slight cant, but when I matched it with the window, it looked like way too tilted. So this is kind of a good happy medium. But yeah, it's time to pick up the tire, toss it on there, and really hope these tacks don't break. Well, I like everything about it. I like the height, I like the angle, but I made that connector tube a little too short, and I have the tire contacting the tube right here. So I'm gonna end up making that connector piece just about 1 inch longer. Should be good to go. Alright, so everything is set up on the Jeep how I want it. Now it's time to pull it off to do finish welding. There's a few more things I'm going to add, like a couple gussets here and there. Also going to add a hitch to it, but all that's going to be a lot easier with it off the bumper. And also it looks like it's about to rain, and I don't want to put this raw metal back outside in the rain to get rusty. So time to go ahead and yank this thing off, and we're kind of on the finished stretch, so I'm pretty happy about that. over the weekend I got this bumper done, and my first idea was I wanted to take the Jeep to the mountains so I could have a nice background, kind of show you off the bumper, and would be a nice video. However, I went back and I looked at the footage and it was so windy you could barely hear me talk, and all the footage I took was super overexposed. So we're gonna scrap all that and we're back in the garage. So all in all, I'm really happy with how this bumper turned out. It's definitely a lot more stable than the initial bumper, and one of the big things I wanted to accomplish was I wanted to make it lighter weight as well. So I did weigh my old bumper when I pulled it off. Bumper and swing out was about 110 pounds. This new bumper with swing out, everything on there, is about 88 pounds. So we knocked off like 20 pounds off the back of the Jeep, which doesn't seem like a lot, but whenever you load these things up to go for like a wheeling trip and camping, all that weight really adds up, and the extra weight off-road kind of makes this thing perform a little worse in the rocks. So let's talk about the features on this bumper. First off, it has a lot more mounting points to the Jeep than the previous bumper did. The previous bumper only had about 6 bolts holding it to the factory bumper mounting locations. And I just didn't really like that because you're really only relying on the threads of each one of those bolts to hold it in a serious recovery situation. Definitely doing like some snow wheeling and things of that nature, using like a recovery rope, doing those snatch pulls when you're flooring it and letting that rope tighten up. I just never had a lot of confidence in that previous bumper. Now I have 21 bolts holding this bumper to the chassis. So there's the factory location bolts, there is the frame tie-in bolts along the bottom of the frame rails, and there's 2 clamps on either side of the bumper mounting to the side of the frame. So this thing is absolutely locked down and it does not move at all on the Jeep. Moving on to the swing out, I really do like how the swing out operates. It's super smooth. Unfortunately, there is still a little bit of play in it, but when I took it off-road, I couldn't see the tire moving at all. However, if you just grab the tire and press on a little bit, it does have a bit of movement, which, let's be honest, any swing out on a standard hub style is gonna have a little bit of movement. Versus like, let's say when you do a rock crawler style where there's 4 points of contact on the frame, that's really gonna stiffen it up. But going off-road in this thing, it was not bouncing all around, and that was another big pet peeve of mine, and I'm really happy that is solved. Now, let's move on to things I don't like. Honestly, this 4x Innovations latch system that I used, I'm not a huge fan of it. At first, I thought it looked really cool and I thought it looked like a really simple option, but a couple things I don't like about it. First off, the handle is 1-inch thick solid steel. I have no idea why they do that. First off, not only is that incredibly heavy, but I can't imagine for his manufacturing cost, a 1-inch piece of solid steel for that handle is any less expensive than using tube. So it's adding a lot of weight for really no added benefit. I mean, that handle is not seeing any abuse. You do not need solid steel on there. The second is that the way that the latch grabs around the metal tube, it almost acts as a pivot point for wobbling back and forth on the tire carrier, as it's allowing it to rotate around the latch point. That I didn't think about before I got it, but after I started playing with it a little bit more, I think that possibly is a source of some of the movement in the tire carrier. Now, let's be clear. I'm not saying this tire carrier couldn't be improved to reduce a little bit of the movement. All I'm saying is that this latch is not helping it stay locked in place. I did have to add an additional nylon washer to it and a shit ton of Loctite to make the bolt not continuously come loose on it. And then lastly, the pin design where it clicks in, it's not always a perfectly solid engagement, and this primarily has to do with the nylon washer that is between the 2 moving pieces on the hinge. And that nylon washer in there allows the 2 pieces to not only twist back and forth, but also split back and forth. And if you tighten it too much more, it's just gonna be incredibly hard to open and close it. So in conclusion, it is a good latch. I mean, it is solid. The operation of it, although two-handed, is very easy to do. And I love the way it looks. But to be totally honest, building bumpers in the future, I don't think I'll probably ever use one of these latches again. I'll go back to more of the standard turnbuckle style latch with some rubber bumpers for contacts. And I think those are not only more stable, but they're like $10 versus this 4x Innovations latch. I believe it was about $90 for the latch plus shipping. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and leave the video there. Go ahead and drop down in the comments if you guys like the way this bumper looks. As I mentioned before, I did pretty much copy a Filthy Addictions off-road bumper, and again, I only did that because I have the tools to do it, but I think they do make a really good product. So if you guys want something similar to this and you don't have all the tools and fabrication skills, definitely check them out. It looks like they have a really quality product. I know this video was a little bit more quick cut and there was a lot of music to it, which for me, it's kind of nice because I can kind of film little bits and pieces of fabricating this and slap it all together. But let me know how you guys like this style of video. If you want a little bit slower video where I give a little bit more details or maybe some fabrication tips and tricks, I'm happy to throw that in there. I just don't want it to turn into a video of me just sitting here talking in front of the camera the whole time like I am right now. But let me know what you guys think on videos moving forward and how you'd like this channel to be formed. Obviously, I create videos for you guys, so let me know what you like. If you guys enjoyed this video and want to see some more fabrication and 4x4 content, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like, share, all that good stuff. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, I am at Machinesinc Jake. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.